Okay, this is just a test before we. And wow, new Chris, you were like lightning fast. Alcuda
Okay,
babe.
this is just a test
I know.
before.
There we go. So, Nikki, James, hello. Standing firm, Leslie. I am on, what is it, like an hour early, but I wanted to test the audio. We got rid of Windows 10 and tried to figure some other stuff out. So, is the sound any better? Oh my God, I listened to the video from last night this morning and it was absolutely terrifying. I am so glad I did not hear what you guys were hearing. That was beyond creepy. Okay, and is the volume is good? Everything is good. So I just wanted to make sure it was all set for tonight for the book club. All good. Awesome. Awesome. Nikki says, I wasn't bothered. I appreciate all you do. Sounds good now, though. Volume seems like it was before, like before the train wreck that was last night, or before, like before as in last night. Oh, okay. Standing Firm says, what book? So about that. There is the book that was scheduled, and then there is the book that I read. I don't even know where I got this book from, but it was supposed to be another Brene Brown book, blah, 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 called I thought it was just me, but it's not, or something along those lines. That was the book that was scheduled. I found out today about 3 hours ago from Lucy that I had read the wrong book. And the book that I read that we're going to discuss tonight is called Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. I have no idea how I got the wrong title. It's, yeah, my world. But and then just real quick too, book club stuff, and I'll announce this when I for real go live, but book club stuff, I put up the next 6 books on the website today. So through January through August is up. And then there's a few more that I still kind of need to figure out and land on. If you guys have some suggestions, that would be great. Okay, cool. Top Quality says, yeah, I have not been on for a while, but I can clearly notice a huge difference in sound quality. Very, very good. That, man, I don't know. So let me try something else. Okay, so this is the pop filter thing that goes in front of the microphone. Do you guys notice a sound difference? Do you notice any difference with this? Just out of curiosity. This filter is supposed to help with sounds, like popping sounds, like P's, T's, S's. So please pop, 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 pop. No echo tonight. Slight difference, less echo. Sounded better before you use the filter. Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, there we go. There we go. So we'll just take that down. I noticed a difference with, let me just get this thing off of here. I noticed the difference with the pop filter when I go to do podcasts. When I take the audio and make it into podcasts, I can really hear the P sounds and stuff like that. But it's funny because I'll get, oh my God, this thing is really on here. I will get messages from like audio people and they have all kinds of tips. And it's funny because, I don't know if a normal person would notice this stuff, but like once, and I won't tell you because once it's brought to your attention, like you're going to totally notice it and it's going to drive you nuts. But I get little comments all the time about my sound and how I talk. Interesting. So much to learn with all of this. Ike, for the love of audio, I cannot get this thing off. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. I should be turning it to the left and it should be coming off, and it's not. Huh. Okay. Well, I just got a comment from somebody, from Trisha. He says, Dana, I'm sorry, but I'm laughing so hard right now. It's about 33 minutes in now, and I'm hearing you freak out about the breathing. All of the comments from last night's live stream have been really entertaining. And then somebody put in the timestamp about the bug. And then, of course, I had to go see, like, how long had that bug been on me? And it was for a disturbing amount of time. And then I have to, okay, I'm just rambling here just because. But then I was listening to what I was saying about the bug, and I called him ugly. And I feel really bad that I called him ugly. That was not very nice of me. I know it's a bug, but he's not ugly. He's just who he is. So I'm sorry, Bug, if you're still around. I don't know where you went, but you keep being you. Keep being you. Okay, so Trisha says in her comment, it's about 33 minutes in now. I hear you freak out about the breathing. I'm watching this the next day, so I presume everything was okay. You're so brave about so many things. It just seemed so uncharacteristic of you to get so scared, but so funny since I know you're okay. Yeah, I am not the person you want to go see a horror movie with because I freak out. It's awful. Bonnie asked, Dana, did you ever find that bug again? Did you throw him outside? I have this other chair here and I put him on it. And then when we were done last night, he was not there. So I don't know what happened to him. I wasn't going to put him outside because it's like 2 degrees out and I didn't want him to freeze. I was actually probably going to go put him in the basement was the plan, but he is nowhere to be seen. So I don't know. I don't know where he went. Alcuda Babe says, do you believe shame is at the root of narcissistic tendencies? So we'll cover that a little bit in the book club tonight, which is in like an hour. But that was one of the things that Brene Brown briefly touched on, kind of just in short, yes and no. I think there's kind of 2 different types of narcissism. And there's kind of the shame-based narcissism where a person feels really insecure. And so they're compensating for that, or kind of overcompensating for that, where they're grandiose, they're very intense, they can't be wrong, it's all about them. A lot of that is shame-based because they're not comfortable with who they are. And so it's part of it. But then I think, it's not just that I think this, but like, and I forget the other type of narcissism, but it's more of a entitlement-based narcissism where a person comes from being spoiled as a child, where they grew up with an attitude of entitlement of, yeah, it should be all about me all the time. And they just kind of expect that. Now, I think a person can be both. I think a person can grow up with a lot of money and also, or just being spoiled even without having a lot of money, but just being catered to, and then also have that shame-based feelings of unworthiness. It's so interesting how all of this stuff works. And I really kind of think, we are so easily shaped by different events in our life. And who knows? It could be one event. I remember I had a friend, this was years ago. She was married to a guy who I would say is very much textbook narcissist, best of everything. He was arrogant and grandiose. He was just kind of quote unquote that guy. He was really difficult to be around. And he was always like status dropping stuff. And just, I don't know, he was just something else. And he had mentioned one time where he grew up poor and his mom had sent him to school. I don't know if it was for school pictures or what, but it was, all the kids were making fun of him about what he wore to school. And he vowed to himself, like that day, that that would never happen again. And so from kind of then on, he overdressed. And this guy would, I mean, he would show up in like, just very expensive clothes, way overdressed for the situation. But he was definitely overcompensating for a lot of that. And, and then there's another guy that I know, who is kind of a friend of a friend, and he grew up really overweight and kids teased him. And as he got older, he ended up losing a bunch of weight. And, now he cheats on every single woman that he's with, like with multiple partners. And, my guess is probably a lot of that has to do with him, being not being able to get a date, and having kind of this axe to grind against women, and probably being afraid of being vulnerable, because when he was vulnerable before, it didn't work out so well. So it's just interesting how these things happen. Nikki asked, do you have to have narcissistic parents or a bad childhood trauma to be a narcissist? I think sometimes when the word trauma is used, we normally associate it with like something really traumatic, right? Like something profoundly traumatic. But a trauma is whatever a person perceives it to be. So like I was using that example of my friend's husband, that event where all these kids were laughing at him because of the clothes that he wore, that was very significant and very traumatic for him. Whereas another person, that might have just kind of rolled off of them, it's just, people are shaped by different events. Because yeah, somebody else is saying that they know different people who have had wonderful parents, but they or them and their sister or whoever the sibling are just absolutely awful. And, yeah. So it's kind of one of those things like nature versus nurture. And I think there's just so many different factors that come into play. I think all we can really do is, and somebody else had asked, what is the difference between like a narcissist and just a jerk? And I think a lot of people, and I get it, myself included, kind of get tangled up in that. And by and large, you can get so off in the bushes trying to figure out, what am I really dealing with here? But at the end of the day, it boils down to behavior. So if somebody's behavior is problematic for you, then that's it. It doesn't matter if they're a jerk or a narcissist or a sociopath or, you name it. It really boils down to kind of what do you want in your life? Like what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Nikki says, I had trauma and narcissistic parents, so he tells me that I am the narcissist. He lies, cheats, and cons people. No remorse, not even for our son. Yeah. Well, and James nailed it. He says, yeah, usually the narcissist calls the not narcissist person the narcissist. So I agree. And I mean, if you look at his behavior, if he lacks empathy, he lacks remorse, he's got this pattern of cheating and lying and conning people, any one of those things is really problematic. So combined, that points to, that's really very kind of sociopathic behavior. It's, exploitative, pervasive, persistent, problematic kind of stuff. And again, all we can do is, it's so hard, I know people want to hold on to hope that another person can change, but I think that's where we have to get clear on kind of where is that line in the sand for us, and how long are we willing to hang on to hope, and what kind of changes would you need to see happen? But kind of the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And so if a person's that's where they are now, and they haven't made any massive action to change that, that's probably who they're going to be in the future. And they're probably going to get worse because they're going to get better at conning, better at lying. The more any of us do anything, you're going to get better at it. And so that's more often than not. It's one of those things, like when a person shows you that they don't have a moral compass, believe them. Normal, kind of, especially healthy. I won't say normal because normal tends to be just different degrees of dysfunction, but like healthy people that you can actually be in a relationship with, don't have that. So, good plan. Nikki says, yeah, I left 2 months ago, but I have to have contact because of my son. I'm getting my son into therapy ASAP. I think that's a really good plan. And, keeping a paper trail, documenting everything. If it continues to be, if you're getting harassed or if it's just exhausting, you might want to see if you can do a lot of courts have like a court appointed mediator, or there's different apps that people can use that you can go through the app that documents all communication. So everything is very spelled out. That kind of stuff really helps to eliminate any unnecessary contact and any harassment and any miscommunication, because there's a paper trail, there's other people that are kind of involved in that communication. Yep. Katie says, a narcissist will lie when the truth would be better. That's so true. Nikki says, he says that we all have narcissistic traits. That's his excuse. Well, people, certain degrees of narcissism falls within like the range of normal. So there's a thing called healthy narcissism. And that's where a person, you have, it's that degree of being like self-oriented enough and having self-confidence where you're like, why not me? Why not now? I can achieve my goals. I can do this. And if I don't know how to do this, I can figure out a way to do this. And kind of that get up and go to where we feel worthy. When you're talking about, people do lie. Some people do cheat. Some people do steal, but you're really talking that any of that stuff is problematic. And when it becomes like a pattern where a person is, consistently lying, especially if they're lying about stuff they don't need to lie about, people tend to lie when they're not comfortable with the truth. Most of us tell little white lies, and it can be interesting too if you can catch yourself if you're doing it. Most people, I think a lot of us tend to lie when we're not comfortable saying no. So we might make up excuses like, oh, I would, I'd love to watch your children, but I've got a party to go to, or I have to work this weekend, right? Like, so paying attention to the stuff that it can be very insightful to look at our own behavior and think about, okay, if we are lying, what are we lying about? Cheating and stealing, to me, that's kind of further down the road. But if it's all, again, like, it's not saying that that stuff is okay, because it's not, but there's also a difference between an event and a pattern. And I mean, to me, it's all deal breaker behavior. But if a person's got this pattern of doing these very destructive things, it's a problem, and it's impossible to have a relationship with a person who's a chronic liar, who cheats, who steals, who manipulates, who does all of these things. And they might be doing that for a wide variety of reasons, but I don't know. To me, it's a deal breaker stuff because the trust would be gone. So if there's no trust, then there's no relationship. That's why I'm saying, like, it can be really hard to sort out, and it can cause a lot of people to kind of get stuck in the bushes trying to figure it out. But it really comes down to, what is workable behavior for you? What are your deal breakers? And here's the thing too, with when a person has a pattern of problematic behavior, in order for any of us to change, there needs to be that awareness that there is a problem. So they need to fully own it. And then take massive action to work towards doing something different. And change is not, it doesn't happen. It's not like a flip of a light switch, especially when you're talking about deep rooted stuff like that. You know, it's often two steps forward, one step backward. And that's assuming that the person has a sincere desire to change. Most of the time, people that have, no moral compass don't care, because it's all about them. It's not about what's right and wrong. It's about what they want in the moment. And it's like, you know, that stuff is crazy making and exhausting. But if a person, let's just say if a person did have an event where they did something problematic, I would really, for me personally, if it falls in that realm of workable behavior for you, I would back things way up, because generally what you see is only the tip of the iceberg. If somebody's showing you that they're stealing money from you, then, or cheating on you, they're probably doing other things because they don't respect you. So I would separate bank accounts. I would insist on getting, tested for sexually transmitted diseases. I would stop intimacy. I would, like, we need to get this stuff figured out. You need to see things clearly. And frankly, I would wait a solid, for like at least 18 to 36 months before I would even entertain the idea of, like, investing in a relationship with them. And they would need to be in weekly therapy. So, because like I said, what we see tends to be the tip of the iceberg. And, um, you know, that's a great question. Zelda says, is there any info or research in relation to between toxins, like in vaccines, and problematic behavior personalities? There seems to be more people manipulating folks, and it might be a correlation. I don't know if there is any research that has been done. And it's hard to say too, is kind of what we're seeing. How much of a social media and internet does that tie into? Because here's the thing, like, before the internet, the internet just makes things a lot easier, and it really makes people become more of what they already are. It's a tool, just like money, just like fame, just like any, it's accessibility. And I think it's a tool. So it's like money doesn't change people. It just makes them more of what they already are. Exposure, like internet stuff, it just makes a person more of what they already are. So, with the internet, you know, hooking up and getting sex and scamming people and getting attention and, conning people, all of that stuff becomes significantly easier. And I could see how, if a person's if already kind of got that bend in their personality where they are a con artist, before you might have to really work at it to be a con artist. Maybe they might con, 10 people in their lifetime, but you get a scam artist on the internet and they can con 10 people in an hour. Or if you've got a person that's already cheating on their spouse, well, you put them on the internet and there's no short. I mean, anybody can be anything that they claim to, say on the internet. So they could have all kinds of dating profiles out there. They could have, it's just a lot easier for them to, kind of run that con. So, but I don't know. It would be interesting. Yeah, Michael's saying, yeah, Zelda, he says, I think the technology is the problem. I think technology has a lot to do with the increased prevalence of these types. And it's interesting too. So kind of, the internet has connected us all so much greater than anything ever has before. And it's an interesting thing how people use technology. And I think a lot of people tend to use it for validation, especially the younger generation, where it's all about kind of, how many followers do you have and how many likes do you have? And, I cannot even imagine being in high school these days and just how different everything is. We'll talk about this more in this book, Daring Greatly, that we're going to cover here in about 45 minutes. But, um, the way that we approach vulnerability and boundaries and kind of openness and topics that are appropriate for discussion, and all of that's just radically changed. There's so many channels, and it's just very interesting. Like, there's so many channels on YouTube. Mine, I guess you could say mine being one of them, where people they're airing kind of their stuff that they're normally embarrassed about. Some of my favorite channels, and in a way I kind of like that, because it serves to let other people know that we're not alone. A lot of my favorite channels on YouTube have to do with like extreme weight loss, and people are showing like all of their loose skin, and they're just really, and they're in their underwear on the internet, and they're like, this is my body, and I this is where I'm at. And like, I get goosebumps thinking about it. Like, that just takes such strength. But I don't know, like, it's weird because 10 years ago, we all would have been horrified by somebody being in their underwear on the internet. And now you go to Instagram and it's just all about people being sexy and putting their bodies out there, and for good, bad, or indifferent. So I don't know. Technology is interesting. So what else was I going to say? I was going to say something. Okay. Janet's saying, yeah, voice is good tonight. Awesome. Yay. Valenta says, it's been almost 3 years. My therapist and friends cannot believe I am still so down. It takes a while. It really does. I mean, it's, I talk about this often, and I really can't stress this point enough. It is not like going through a bad breakup. It's bad enough a person getting divorced, or, going through like a normal ending of a normal relationship. Like, that's painful enough. But when a person is so abused and exploited and just lied to, just the psychological part of it takes a while to just process. And it's intense. So, let alone all of the other stuff that goes along with it. And Belinda says, I just found out he had a baby with a new supply. And that can be so devastating too, because it can send that person right back to that place of, then maybe it was me. What's so wrong with me? He seems so happy with her, and it's like he just picked up and started a whole new family, and maybe I was the problem all along, right? And oftentimes what you're seeing is the idealized stage for somebody else. If a person shows you that they use, abuse, or exploit other people, that's their personality. It's not going to change for somebody else because it has nothing to do with the other person. It's who they are. It might take a little while for it to come out, and it might surface in some different ways, but it will continue to surface because they haven't done the self-work to change. So, and plus what you're seeing most likely too, if you're seeing it on like Facebook and social media, keep in mind that what you're seeing is this edited reality. You're seeing the highlight reel of somebody else. It's not real. Facebook is not real. People, it's crazy. People will do stuff just to get the picture. Like, okay, everybody, like, look happy, or we're going to go here just to get the picture, just to put on Facebook. And it's like not even an accurate reflection of like what's going on with them or in their life or what have you. So please, please, please do not compare your life with what you see somebody else's life like on Facebook. So Valinda says, I cannot imagine him involved in taking care taking care of the baby. He's just so selfish. Yeah. I mean, if a person's selfish, he might have had the baby because she accidentally got pregnant or because she wanted the baby or he got her pregnant in order to trap her. Who knows? And it's so easy to put pictures up on the internet of like a baby or a puppy and to make it seem like, oh, I'm just this really great, caring person. Like, oh, world's greatest dad, or, what I mean? Like world's greatest mom. And people are kind of using children or pets or their seemingly good acts as props. So they can get those likes and those, oh, you're so wonderful, or that's what a real man should be like. And just kind of all of that feedback from other people, but none of it's real. None of it's real. It's just what people want them to see. If he's incredibly selfish, he'll continue to be incredibly selfish. Yep. Nikki says, yeah, he probably won't. My ex didn't help me at all. He made himself look like dad of the year though. And Alcuda says, unless you know someone and you see a baby, how do you know that they are not trying to secretly play you? Here's the thing about a person lying or manipulating. Like, how do you know? Like, how do you know when a person's sincere versus when they're insincere? And the only way to tell is with time, is going slow and paying attention to the actions that you see, the consistent actions that you see, and paying attention to how you feel. Does it feel insincere? Does it feel like something's off? Are things, are words and actions lining up, or are they not lining up? What kind of red flags are you feeling? And because that's the thing, red flags are felt, they're not really seen most of the time. So they can be easy to gloss over because it's a feeling. And we can justify anything. So it's important for us to go slow and to kind of keep that emotional distance, especially in the beginning, to, realize that we're not seeing the person clearly because we don't know them. Like it's going to take a solid, 3 months before we even really begin to start knowing a person. Oh, Michael asked, Dana, I see a big trend in people wanting open relationships. Do you think these types of people are kind of cluster Bs? I think so, because it would make it so easy to get all the supply they want and still a main source. It's hard to say. I think my guess is with society, depending on different societies have been polyamorous kind of over time and are. So I don't necessarily, I don't know. I guess my take on it is whatever is okay between two consenting adults is fine. I think when it becomes problematic is if one person is being pushed into something that they don't want to be pushed into, then that's a problem, But if it's two consenting adults and they want to do what they want to do, they're not hurting anybody else, then have at it. But, but yeah, there's probably a high percentage of cluster B people that are polyamorous, I would imagine, but I don't know. Okay. I need to go get my notes and I will be back in about 25 minutes. So I just wanted to test the sound really quick. So thank you guys so much. I will see you shortly for book club and I'll see you then. Okay. Take care. Ciao, ciao. Ciao, ciao.